Welcome to Heritage Heroes, the second in the series featuring people on the front line of saving our urban legacy. Wars and the passage of time have probably done less damage to the monuments and historic hearts of our towns than modern development. Our series is about the individuals from all walks of life who share a conviction that there is room for the past in our rapidly expanding cities. Many historic buildings, open spaces and traditional neighbourhoods owe their survival to the determination of a handful of people. These individuals are our heroes, chosen by an independent jury of urban heritage experts. Today, downtown Beirut shows little sign of the devastation caused by a 15-year civil war that ended in 1991. Many Lebanese agree the transformation is in large measure due to the vision and determination of one man, UN Habitat Award winner and late Prime Minister Rafik Hariri. Lebanon has a well-documented history going back over 5,000 years. It was home to the Phoenicians, was part of the Roman and Ottoman empires, and after the First World War was a French protectorate. In 1975, a brutal civil war broke out and was to last for 15 years. By the time a peace accord was signed in 1991, much of Beirut lay in ruins.
The trees in the buildings are bigger than the trees in the streets, and it was completely abandoned with no infrastructure, with no roads, and it was very hard to see how we can start to rebuild Beirut city center.
But rebuilding did begin when, in 1992, Rafik Hariri returned to Lebanon after 28 years in exile to assume office as Prime Minister. He brought with him a vision of a rejuvenated Lebanon and a restored Beirut. Ayman Traoui, Rafik Hariri's official photographer, documented the changes taking place in downtown Beirut.
It was like a forest. Only fighters live here about 20 years until 1991, and I began to take a lot of charge for this area because I know that sometimes we will rebuild again.
Rafik Hariri started to realize his vision of a Lebanon at peace through the creation of Solidaire, a partnership between public and private development companies. Angus Gavin, now the head of the Urban Development Division in Solidaire, remembers its creation.
Now, what Rafik Hariri did was to create a private sector development corporation, that's Solidaire, which is responsible for the entire development, and the majority shareholders are, in fact, all the pre-existing landowners and tenants, about 40 or 50,000 of them.
The project focuses around the historic core of the city, where you can find the heritage of the Ottoman and the French Mandate periods. And that area was fully rebuilt while restoring around 300 buildings. And the process of reconstruction was quite meticulous in terms of standards of rehabilitation and restoration of stone, restoration of the structure.
We didn't really know whether the stonemasonry skills still existed. And when the first few contracts were let for restoration of some of these buildings, stonemasons came from the Lebanese mountains and also particularly from Aleppo in Syria. And there were stonemasons, I remember sitting in the streets here, drawing on blocks of stone, limestone, and carving, copying fragments of salvaged detail on these buildings.
Part of Rafik Hariri's plan was to make the city centre a place to live and work again.
It was considered as a very dynamic vision, whereas heritage is not part of a museum, but part of a livable city where people can live, work, play within a very old environment blended with a very contemporary one.
The creation of public spaces was essential to Hariri's design for reconciliation. One such space is the Garden of Forgiveness.
The city needs a space to heal, especially in such a charged location as the city center, quite close to the Green Line, where the city was divided east and west. And this was actually one of the areas that was first designated as an archaeological excavation. And we decided to make it into a garden.
Rafiq Hariri never got to see his plans fully realized. In 2005, Hariri was killed along with 21 others when explosives were detonated as his motorcade drove near the Saint-Georges Hotel in Beirut.
At 5 to 1 o'clock p.m., the day of February, 14 February, Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri was in the parliament, and he take this road to go home. From this street, with the cars, too much cars for him, and at this point, where the flags there, the exposure done there, and Prime Minister died there. In this point, in this area, the area that he was loved too much.
You probably recall those scenes of the Lebanese coming to Martyr Square to protest against his assassination and force the Syrians to withdraw from Lebanon. Something like 2/3 of the entire population of Lebanon came to that event. And many of those had been, if you like, on the other side of the fence, but they all recognized, and the country came together recognizing what a great man he was and the great achievements that he had made.
Coming up, downtown New York, where a derelict overhead railway becomes a park, and India, gaining inspiration from the past.